The shackles hissed as they retracted into the cold obsidian floor, leaving Commander Riker Maddox on his knees beneath a galaxy-wide broadcast lens. Blood matted his jawline, dried in rivulets across his collarbone. One eye was swollen shut, but the other, icy and unblinking, locked directly onto the camera. "Earth," he said. "Calm. Level. Unafraid. Remember who we are." On every colony screen, in every war-wrecked outpost, humans watched in frozen silence. High above the execution chamber, seated like a carrion bird, Supreme Warden Velrax flicked his fingers. "End it." Two armored Zaljan moved forward. 8 feet tall. Exo-signed. Efficient. One raised its plasma glaive. Riker never flinched. A half-system away, deep inside Earth Command's subterranean war room, Captain Elira Vance stood motionless. Her hands trembled, barely concealed behind her back. Every fiber of her being screamed to move, to act, but protocol bound her. "Freeze that frame," she ordered, her voice tight but steady. "Zoom on his eye." The tech complied. Across the hologrid, Riker's single visible eye filled the screen. There, etched into the iris overlay, flickered something impossible, a pulse-coded message. Military grade. Old-school Earth seal encryption. Her breath caught. "Ghost protocol, active." Admiral Bain turned toward her. "Is that what I think it is?" She didn't respond. She was already running. 2 years ago, Elira had been court-martialed for disobeying a direct order, refusing to leave civilians behind during a recon raid. Riker had testified on her behalf. It hadn't saved her career. But it had earned her something far more powerful: trust. Now, the man who gave her a second chance had just been publicly executed. Or so the galaxy believed. Except Riker Maddox didn't do anything without purpose. And that iMessage? It was a trigger. Inside the Empire's high broadcast citadel, Velrax raised his arms theatrically as the execution chamber went dark, its floor awash with crimson mist and propaganda banners flaring behind him. "To those who defy order," his voice thundered across the galaxy, "let this be your fate. Earth is broken. Humanity is done." His smug grin faltered when the broadcast drone began to spark. Static. Then a flicker. Then silence. Velrax spun. "What is that? Why is the feed not closing?" One technician looked up, eyes wide. "Sir, it's rebroadcasting." The last frame of Riker's stare now looped on every Imperial channel, blinking once per second. A countdown. Back on Earth, Elira burst into a forgotten chamber within the Arctic Defense Vault, a relic of the Silent Doctrines, long decommissioned. Inside stood a single upright pod. Her palm hovered over the activation panel, breath steaming in the chilled air. "You better be right, Riker." She keyed the override. Null operative command activated. Lights snapped on. A voice, low and mechanical, filled the room. "Seal Ghost Protocol acknowledged. Earth's last line of retaliation, unshackled." Around the world, encrypted comms began pinging. Black sites reawakened. Cloaked satellites adjusted orbit. Human warships long thought decommissioned came online, undetectable by any known Empire scan. Humanity had just gone to war. And no one at the top had even voted on it. Riker's body was gone. Vaporized, they said. But Elira had seen his eyes before. She knew the truth. He planned for this. She whispered to herself. Every step. On a desert mining moon orbiting the outer rim, a teenager watched the broadcast replay in stunned silence. His father, once a soldier, now broken and tired, stood behind him. The boy looked up. He didn't look afraid. The old man's voice cracked. "That's because he wasn't." Then he turned toward the horizon, where a faint satellite trail now blinked against the twilight sky. Earth hadn't surrendered. It had just remembered who it was. The Arctic Defense Vault sealed behind Elira with a hiss of frostbitten hydraulics. Beneath her boots, the floor vibrated, barely perceptible, yet unmistakable. Earth was waking up. Not with noise, but with precision. On her wrist screen, A dozen dormant beacon codes lit up in rapid succession: Black Echo, Ventapulse, Hollow Fire. Each one meant a piece of the past had just come back online. Each one meant a seal ghost had heard the call. She didn't smile. Not yet. The real war hadn't started. Inside Earth Command, Admiral Bain watched the data flood in with growing alarm. Stealth ships long thought dismantled blinked onto his monitor. Subsurface silos rotated. Cloaked drones adjusted trajectory mid-orbit. He turned to his chief intelligence officer. "Did we authorize any of this?" The officer swallowed. "Sir, the systems bypassed command control. It's routing through a legacy neural key." Bain's eyes narrowed. "Whose?" "Commander Riker Maddox, sir." Meanwhile, in a forgotten bar on Ceres Station, Lieutenant Tove caldered down his drink and wiped the condensation from his synth glove. He was halfway into a second round when his comm implant buzzed, 3 short pulses, 1 long. He froze. No one used that code anymore. He tapped his jaw, activating the feed. A single word pulsed across his optic overlay. Redeploy. Alira stood in the vault's comm center, surrounded by relic tech and humming generators. Her fingers flew across the interface, rerouting encrypted channels, initiating drone swarms, and calling in markers from old friends. "Who's still alive out there?" she muttered. A voice crackled through an ancient channel, gravel-throated, laced with dry humor. "Define alive, Vance." She smirked. "Tove. Thought you drank yourself into a black hole." "Almost did. They ran out of whiskey." A pause. "You pulled Ghost Protocol. That means Riker's dead." "No," she said firmly, her voice hardening. "It means he had a plan." Back on Varnak Prime, the Empire's capital world, Velrax was not enjoying his victory. The broadcast loop still played, Riker's eye flickering like a countdown, taunting him. Every attempt to override the loop failed. His top engineers were silent, pale with fear. "It's a virus," one finally admitted. "Embedded in the feed. Possibly a neural echo." Velrax snarled. "Impossible. The prisoner is gone. Disintegrated." The engineer didn't meet his gaze. "There's no residue, sir. No DNA remains. Just heat distortion and scrambled sensor data." The warden's claws clicked nervously on the console. "Then where is he?" In the lower decks of a derelict Empire cruiser drifting in quarantine orbit, Riker exhaled into darkness. Cooled metal walls pressed close. He could smell plasma-burnt wiring. A heartbeat sensor thudded gently under his skin, faked, slowed, masked by synthetic inhibitors. His captors had believed the illusion. They always underestimated Earth's seals. He adjusted the visor strapped across his forehead, flicking through data overlays. His neurorig had synced. Empire systems were talking to him now, whispering vulnerabilities, route maps, weapon cache inventories. It would take time. But he had time. They gave him plenty of time when they thought he was dead. Alira and Tove rendezvoused in the orbital layer of Earth's Noctis Bastion, their dropship docking silently beneath the shadow of the old carrier Athena's grasp. Tove whistled as he stepped off the ramp. "She's still flying?" "She's more drone than ship now," Alira replied. "Riker upgraded her before his last run. Grafted in predictive AI, fusion lattice armor, and stealth rail guns." He raised an eyebrow. "Guy really didn't believe in retirement, huh?" Alira turned, meeting his gaze. "No. And he didn't believe in dying for nothing either." Tove's expression turned serious. "You really think he's alive?" "I don't have to think. I know." Meanwhile, resistance chatter echoed across the Empire's outer colonies. Former slaves. Dissidents. Forgotten worlds. Each saw the glitching broadcast. Each heard the myth. The human commander didn't die. He escaped. Hope was a contagion. In 3 systems, Empire patrols were ambushed by unknown assailants. In 2 others, drone beacons blinked Earth's colors. The galaxy had feared Earth's silence. Now it was learning to fear its return. Inside Riker's dark refuge, a light on his console blinked green. Contact established, a synthesized voice informed him. Agent Vance is online. He closed his eyes, allowing her voice to filter in. Elira, he said, low and deliberate. A beat. Then, you really didn't die. Never planned to. You ready to burn the stars? Riker's voice was calm, steady, laced with fury. No. I'm ready to remind them why they should have left us alone. The corridors of the Empire's inner sanctum were colder than death. Commander Riker Maddox ghosted through the dimly lit arteries of Varnak's subterranean nexus, dressed in scavenged officer armor, face masked beneath a cracked visor. His motion was fluid, calculated, every step timed to security blind spots he'd mapped from stolen schematics. Above him, the Empire celebrated his death. Below, he was rewiring their downfall. He slid a device the size of a thumbnail into a fiber conduit. A dull pulse confirmed the uplink. That was 5 now. One more, and Elira would have full access to the Empire's shadow grid, their internal communication backbone. He touched the embedded comm bead beneath his collarbone. Elira, he whispered. Final node in 5 minutes. You clear? Aboard the Athena's grasp, Captain Elira Vance stood over a tactical display glowing with orbital traffic and encrypted signal flows. Every Imperial vessel in the Zarthus belt was logged, monitored, and assigned a priority code. Tove Calder leaned in beside her. This many ships for a backwater mining sector? They're hiding something. They always do, Elira muttered. And I'm going to pry it open. The comm cracked, then Riker's voice broke through like static parting to reveal steel. Elira. Final node in 5. You prepped? Her breath caught. He sounded alive. Not just physically, but focused. Driven. We're green, she replied. Once you punch that grid, we drop Phase 1. Back on Varnak, Riker moved. 2 guards rounded the corner. He didn't hesitate. In a single motion, he stepped into their path, palm outstretched. Halt! He barked, perfectly mimicking the tonal patterns of an Empire warden. They hesitated. Just long enough. He slammed one into the wall, a quick twist snapping vertebrae. The second drew breath, too late. A vibroblade hissed through his throat. No alarms. No noise. Just 2 new bodies for the incinerators. He pressed forward. On the Athena, Tove finished sinking the infiltration drones. He glanced at Elira. You sure we're ready? This is strike first. If we're wrong, she interrupted. We're not wrong. The Empire murdered Riker to send a message. Now they'll hear ours. He nodded, eyes grim. I never thought I'd be fighting under a ghost again. She cracked a tight smile. He's not a ghost. He's the knife they didn't see coming. Riker found the final node, a reinforced neural control relay buried beneath the Empire's data core. He crouched, pried open a service hatch, and slid the last transponder into the port. The interface hummed to life. Node 6 live, he whispered. A pause. Then Elira's voice returned, sharp and ready. Signal verified. You've opened the door. Aboard the Athena, Elira tapped a final sequence on her console. Launch Phase 1. In silent bursts, 6 stealth drones broke from the Athena's hull and drifted toward the Zarthus Belt's defense satellites. They bore no engines, no emissions. Just railgun payloads and guided intent. Each drone found its target. Each satellite died without screaming. Empire communication across the belt went dark. Riker heard the chaos rising above him, shouts, stuttering comms, panicked orders flooding unsecured frequencies. He smiled. For the first time in years, the Empire sounded afraid. He tapped the relay once more. Upload the speech. On over 100 Imperial channels, the looped footage of Riker's execution was replaced, mid-frame, by a live feed. Riker stood before a crimson backdrop, face bloodied but defiant, visor removed, eyes locked on the galaxy once more. You watched them try to kill me, he said, voice steady. They failed. He paused, letting the silence carry weight. Earth never declared war. We didn't need to. But the moment they turned propaganda into execution, they made the choice for us. Images rippled across screens, shattered colonies, imprisoned civilians, labor fields under empire flags. Humanity doesn't conquer. But we do remember. On dozens of worlds, the message hit like a pulse. Miners dropped tools. Veterans wept. Children pointed at the screen and whispered his name like myth. On a slave world in the cradle spiral, a woman raised a hidden Earth banner. In the barracks of an empire destroyer, a junior officer quietly closed his logbook and locked the door. Across the stars, the fire caught. Alira watched it all unfold in real time. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't blink. Tove looked over. We just woke up the galaxy. No, she whispered. He did. A new signal pinged the board. Alira stiffened. Velrax has ordered a fleet mobilization. They're coming. Tove cracked his knuckles. Let them. Alira's fingers hovered over the next command. Phase 2, engage. Inside the Empire's inner command chamber, Velrax screamed. Where is the feed coming from? Shut it down! No one moved. No one could. The human they thought dead now spoke from every console. You started this war with a lie. Riker's voice echoed. Let me end it with the truth. The throne chamber of Varnax shimmered with false grandeur, high spires of gold-laced alloy, flickering banners coated with the Empire's crest, and silence so heavy it could fracture glass. Riker walked down the central aisle alone, his boots echoing like war drums. Every camera in the galaxy was watching. Supreme Warden Velrax stood at the top of the dais, flanked by trembling guards whose loyalty had evaporated hours ago. The illusion of control hung by a thread. You don't belong here. Velrax spat. You were executed. Riker didn't stop walking. Then this is your second mistake. Above Varnax orbit, Athena's grasp locked into final position. Alira Vance stood at the bridge, her hands hovering over the command interface. All fleets are standing by, reported Tove, glancing between displays. Empire armadas are scrambled, but blind. They still don't know what we've infiltrated. Alira's voice was steady. They're about to. She pressed the trigger. In unison, Earth's hidden assets came alive, dormant satellites reignited, cloaked vessels decloaked across enemy space, and human-led insurgents rose from deep within occupied systems. The broadcast wasn't just a speech. It was a signal. In the throne room, Riker stood face to face with Velrax. You orchestrated war behind a screen, Riker said. Killed innocents to feed your image. Turned propaganda into power. Velrax sneered. We ruled because we command fear. You ruled because no one stood up, Riker replied. Now they will. He turned slightly toward the primary broadcast node, now blinking green. To every enslaved world. Every silenced voice. Every system too afraid to fight, this is your permission. He drew a small blade from his belt. Velrax's eyes widened. You wouldn't. I won't need to. Behind them, the chamber doors burst open. Dozens of rebel soldiers surged in, humans, yes, but not only. The oppressed species of the Empire, now armed and united, flooded the sanctum. The Empire was watching its own funeral. On distant worlds, the feed ignited rebellion. On Kalian V, slaves overthrew their keepers with tools and mining lasers. On Noct Prime, a captured frigate turned its guns inward and opened fire on its own fleet. On Mirash, a child climbed onto a broken statue of Velrax and planted a small Earth insignia at its base. Hope spread faster than the Empire's panic. Alira monitored it all. Fleet Omega has disabled 3 Imperial comm hubs, Tove reported. No resistance. They're crumbling. Alira didn't smile. What's the final play? Tove asked. Velrax will run. She shook her head. He won't get the chance. In the throne chamber, Velrax fell to his knees. His guards had vanished. The banners above him sparked, then darkened. Riker stared down at the once mighty warden. This isn't vengeance, Riker said. This is consequence. Velrax lunged, desperation overriding pride, but Riker sidestepped, letting gravity and exhaustion do the rest. The warden collapsed, gasping. No final speech. No defiance. Just silence. Riker stepped over him and looked to the gathered rebels. No thrones. No rulers. Just responsibility. He nodded to the broadcast technician. Cut the feed. Hours later, in the ruins of the Throne World's calm tower, Riker stood alone at a balcony overlooking a skyline flickering between fire and freedom. Alira's voice crackled in his comms. It's done. He closed his eyes. Not yet. You gave them what they needed, Riker. You made them believe. He breathed in the scorched air. I made them remember. A pause. You coming home? She asked gently. He looked at the stars. Eventually. But for now, they'll need someone to remind them. Of what? He turned, walking into the shadows of the shattered capital. That humanity doesn't forget.